Step-siblings, how do you feel about the fact that you're heavily fetishized in? And in what ways has it affected your life? My stepsister ironically says, "What are you doing, step bro?" to piss me off. Edit. She has now seen this post and is not happy with me. Also, I am not commenting on whether my stepsister is hot. Not sibling but parent. My stepdad tried to come onto me. I ran away a year ago and never looked back. Edit. Thanks for all the kind words. If you're curious about my story and don't want to fish through replies, see my post to narcissistic parents. WTF? How old were y'all? It's gross, but it has not affected my life. Do people actually give a about the titles of In the Age of Pornhub? I think the stepbrother-sister thing is so popular only because they use hot porn stars? I also don't ever watch any of the story. Skip to the I'm a woman and all my step-siblings are older men. In high school I had at least 2 classmates that I remember ask me if I ever fooled around with them or thought of them as more than brothers. Freaked me the hell out because I didn't know that this was even a fetish. I haven't had someone ask since then because I guess most adults know better. My opinion on the itself is meh. It's not my thing, but I don't judge. Just don't try to bring me into that nonsense. I went to school with a guy and girl who were step-siblings and everyone knew they were sleeping together. It was all anyone could talk about when she came up pregnant, and it was even more awkward when the baby wasn't her stepbrother's. My stepbrother told me it wouldn't be gross if we had. Because, if it feels good. It feels good. I got pissed. Told him he was being disgusting. And asked him to stay away from me. And later I had to explain to my parents why I wanted him to stay away from me. So. That was fun. Edit. I just want to clarify. To me this was an awkward thing that happened some time ago. That could have been affected by a normalization of step-sibling. And not a traumatizing experience that's haunting me. The only reason I thought about it now is because I read the question of this thread. He was young and drunk when it happened. It was awkward for a while. But he respected my boundaries and we have a platonic sibling relationship and friendship now that I wouldn't wanna be without. I lived it. My step-brother, step-cousin did some gay stuff to me when I was young. It's not awesome and gay stepbrother, cousin is not in my search history. I'd never thought about it and wish you hadn't just made me. Thanks. I always assumed that this bizarre trend started solely because actual might be illegal in several countries. So producers had to find an excuse to don't lose the audience that's into that. Makes logging our session that much better. My step-sibling identifies the genre as a cultural warfare psyop and ignores it. This short video, youtube.com, will show you what it's like. Not funny YouTube sketch. It has had no affect on my life except that now I'll greet my step-brother with "What are you doing, step bro?" and we'll both get a good chuckle out of it. Edit. I am also a dude. Makes me nostalgic for when I had a stepsister. Fun times. Smiley face. Not the step-sibling in this story. I was 6 and my sister was 9. My older step-brother was 18. Parents had no idea, I do think so at least. I once had an older brother who came in from my stepfather's side of the family. Months together he started acting weird. He would be the coolest brother when others were around. But when it was just me and my sis, things got bad. He would often stare at my sister, and one time he tricked her into getting a chance of me getting on his lap, but I was too smart for that. He physically assaulted me many times and I had learned to adapt very quickly. This didn't really hit me at the time. But me and my sister liked anime, so maybe he saw Lawless and thought he could use us. I will never understand this fetish with children. Technically, there is nothing wrong with it. It may seem strange if you grew up together from a young age. But they are biologically unrelated. It would be like dating the next-door neighbor you've known since you were 1 yo. Waiting for my stepsis to call me anytime. I mean, our parents aren't together anymore, Sue. I was sexually abused by my stepbrother, so it's always been a huge turn-off when I see it. Months after I was born with his wife. I am straight male and have a 20-year younger straight stepbrother. So, there is nothing. I also have a stepmom. But, no. Just no. Seriously. Even without being related by blood. She is my mom. And I am interested in her as much as in my real mom. Which is not at all. To clarify that for all the perverts. A bit different than the question you asked and a little off topic, but my sister's dad married a woman and then his mom, my sister's grandma, married the woman's dad while they were still married. So I get a kick out of telling people my sister's dad was at one point married to his stepsister and seeing their reactions of them saying that's weird as hell, and then I explain it to them what happened and they laugh. It's had no impact on my life, as my stepbrother hasn't asked to sleep with me, fortunately. My best friend was sleeping with his stepsister for 2 years. The parents found out and the sister had to go live with her mom. I still ask him how his sister is doing just to get a reaction. Yes, friends at school always talk about it. It hasn't affected my relationship with my stepsister at all. But often when I mention her in passing to people who know I'm a lesbian, I always brace myself for a comment. Could be much worse, but it's annoying. I don't think either of us is affected by the "I made out with mine" off throughout our lives completely of our own volition. Hoo boy, this is a whole can of worms I refuse to touch. My step-sibling seemed to really enjoy that sort of when I was younger. Not a step-sibling, but a stepdaughter. I've never had even a sexual thought about my stepdad. Friends of mine from when I was in high school started dating. They were together for like a year before her dad and his mom started dating. Thankfully for them, they were both adults by that time. My friends are still together and have a house together now. Their parents broke up. I read about 20 comments before realizing that I have step-siblings. My mum got remarried recently when I was in my 30s and I had never thought about it. I guess step-sibling just got even better. We're both boys and live in our own separate places, but every time we meet he says, "What are you doing, step-bro?" It's creepy. It just seems like an odd fetish to become so popular. But I guess when you think about it, there are a lot of divorces, so step-children are quite common. My step-sister was a few months younger than I. We were only ever around each other on weekends or summer breaks and didn't get along very well. I can only recall one time when I was about 14 when a thought of trying to kiss her came into my head. It made me feel gross, weird, and all sorts of confused as I was a 14-year-old boy. As I said before, we weren't close and I grew apart from that side of the family. She fell off the rails with drugs and babies from multiple daddies. I imagine I would probably get a lot more hazing from friends if I were the 14-year-old boy now with the current flood of step. I know some people who were dating in high school. Then their parents started dating. Then they lived together. Awkward RDDDD. I was just watching some of this today. Some family friends of ours were step-siblings as teens. They actually started dating in their late 20s. They're both really great and we're all glad to see them together, honestly. I went to their wedding. Top-tier party. Amusingly enough. a few years after they got married. Their parents, in their 60s, divorced, so they're not really step-siblings at all anymore. Had a co-worker who has 2 kids with his step-sister and was a deadbeat dad. Makes working from home easier. I've never really thought about it, but it has no impact whatsoever. Probably because we're about 10 years apart. I don't mind. And it hasn't. Well, I don't like my step-brother, so I guess it doesn't affect me. Heavily fetished in porn, WTF? Lol. I've gotten laid more often. I've commented this elsewhere. But my ex-stepbrother texted me long after our parents' divorce that if things were different he would have wifed me up. Sis. Yeah. We stopped talking soon after that. Both of my step-siblings are the same as me, and I am not gay. Also, I have only ever met them twice. Maybe 3 times. They live almost 1,000 miles from me. It was almost a decade since the last time I saw either one of them. Next time I see them, someone is getting. Parents got married when we were 2. So we effectively grew up as blood-related. Also, she's straight. Having a step-sibling does make me want to vomit when I see step-sibling. Also, I have a few cousins that tried to make a move on me since I'm not blood-related. And I resent them for it. Gelsht. Show her and maybe she'll stop. I'd probably do the same thing. Makes sense as a way to piss off a sibling. At least she doesn't pretend to be stuck under a bed or in a washing machine. Objectively speaking, is she hot? Let's hope you don't get stuck. So when is the wedding? LMAO. Okay, but what about you? I had a coworker that dated his stepsister. They were already dating when their parents met and then started dating. There was a standoff about which couple needed to stop dating, and the parents won. They eventually got married, and now he will tell people he slept with his stepsister. These theories intrigue me. Like the psyop cultural warfare. Not the sexing step-siblings. ... But I want to M. Good. That would probably be the most awkward situation possible. Read too fast. Thought that said unfortunately. Yet. Not yet. Had to reread that bit. That would be very awkward. Especially if they went through a breakup while still having to live together. My brother was dating this woman who had a super cute daughter, and I'd be loaned out to tag along when we were kids. Like 12-ish. Well, 3 years later they got married. I had never really put that together when I had a crush on her. When we hit adulthood she became super hot. And now, 2 decades later, she's still gorgeous. I think she's technically my cousin? Obviously I've never told her any of this. Edit. I guess I should add that it is my half-brother. Same father, different mother. And he is also old enough to be my father. Our dad is 88. He is 52. Yeah, I remember that we were doing Remember Whens for the senior class. And someone brought up that current step-siblings used to date. It's not, so I don't see the big deal. Well, once I was stuck and I had to ask my step-bro to help me, and he wouldn't because he watched too much. Sounds like the plot of an anime I watched a while back. Sort of happened to me. That sounds a lot like a new episode of Steb's Siblings Caught. To me. Yo, what the, isn't this an anime plot? This sort of happened to me. We only went on one date and it was terrible. She and my sister became good friends though, and our dad and her mom got married, and my one and only blind date became my stepsister. Hot. This is just the plot of Domestic Girlfriend. As long as you haven't broke up yet, it's freaking amazing. But when the breakup comes, they are dead. No feeing way, that's a mess I wouldn't want to be in. Ha ha ha. Good plan. I wish you luck on your endeavor. I don't bang my stepsisters, so can't say it's had any effect in my life. Entfernt. That took a turn. Lolled. Like father like son. Or something related. Wait, like how? Head in washing machine, kitchen cabinet and out. Checks post history. Is disappointed. How were you stuck? Greater than EP brother hasn't asked to sleep with me for. Maybe it has. Maybe if that kind of didn't exist, you'd actually be banging them. That sucks. I hope things are better for you now. Agreed. I don't really understand it at all. I actually knew a guy that was in a long-term relationship with his stepsister. But they didn't grow up together. And they were both adults when they met for the first time during their parents' wedding. I knew a girl in 7th grade who would kinda brag about how her mom would tell her to dress more appropriately since her stepbrothers live with them. My step-siblings are approximately 20 years older than me, and I am very grossed out now you have made me think about it. The story is the only part one watch. Story. Nah. But a little context helps. Maybe I just like with a teen, and I'm in my 30s now and find both groups attractive. But sadly that's mostly found in weird step. I sure don't. I browse the hub looking for videos of hot women having. What difference does it make if the title calls her a stepsister? Or a 1,000-year-old vampire? Or a shape-shifting alien? Or whatever else? That all made up anyway. Name checks out. That moment when your stepsister cheats on you. That's rough. Wow, WTF. I'm really glad you told him to off and told your parents why. I don't think I would have had the same reaction. I'm sorry you had to experience that. And I hope it stopped immediately. What did your parenta do to him?